Mike's Daily Podcast.
FM episode 1912, 1912. I'm Mike Matthews. Welcome to a show called
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And I'm going to be not at work any later than 3 on Wednesday. I don't know why I'm reading you this. All I can say is emails come to me on the weekend, and I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a guy who opens up his emails like an idiot on the weekend. You should not do that. You need to disconnect.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And that is what is best, because we have so much going on
Mike's
in our lives. We need to
Daily
unplug,
Podcast.
enjoy.
Yeah!
Like yesterday, for example, I enjoyed the wonders of Northern Exposure. What? Who's that? Northern Exposure is a wonderful TV show that lasted from the early 80s till the 90s. And it was a show that involved a guy named Joel, who was a doctor from New York, and his entire his education was paid for by a guy up in Alaska, or the state of Alaska paid for his education. So he had to pay off his wonderful education by going to Alaska and doing like a year of work, which ended up being like 3 years. The show lasted 6, I think, close to 6. And the guy who ended up starting the Chase, so David Chase, who started Sopranos, he worked on it. He was the executive producer. And you can see little bits of what would become Sopranos in Northern Exposure, even Northern Exposure, a completely different show. The War of the Worlds, BBC is going to do their version of it. They might as well. H.G. Wells was from England, so I guess they're going to have in it...
And here's today's podcast picture.
No one that I recognize. No British people at all that I recognize. I mean, lots of British people. All right, that's exciting. Hey, look who's here. Hello, Mike. It's John Deere, the engineer, and I am in your podcast picture today. Mm-hmm. Along with this guy who's about to bark. Yes, because we need somebody in this. We need a little drawing right this very minute on the podcast picture today. I would like to thank Stormy Phoenix, who's been on the show. Not Stormy Daniels, who won like over close to $500,000 for some incident that happened after she came out about Trump having an affair with her. Basil's in the podcast picture. Some issue that happened at a strip club that I talked about on this podcast when it happened, because I was not there. But, another horse died at Santa Anita. I used to go to a mall right next to Santa Anita. That's in Pasadena. And there was this really cool toy store. All I remember... and there was a clock store. I thought the clock store was awesome, because I've always had this bent towards steampunk, even though I would never go to a steampunk convention. But the old clocks looked so cool, and it was this room. It was completely soundproof with these cool glass walls and these old clocks sitting there. And I loved it. And my dad and I would go to the Santa Anita Mall, drive out there, and I remember also a toy store that had a video game, but it wasn't like the Atari video games. It used that, what did they call it, vector graphics, where it would be this very sharp, three-dimensional type graphic that we weren't seeing at the time. Now it's all over the place, but 3D graphics. But then it was just, wow, look what you can do. It kind of looked like the game Asteroids. That's not 3D, that's very 2D. But later there would be the Star Wars game, and that was very 3D. And that's about as far as into gaming I got in my teens. And then as I went into college, I left all that behind. But back to a horse died in Santa Anita. I guess I'm assuming this was at a race. The 32nd horse death since, well, it's been about a year, in a year, almost a year. Wow. It's terrible. Horses are very beautiful animals, although one tried to kill me and my dog the other day, but a couple months ago, actually. Hurricane Lorenzo briefly reaches Category 5. Ooh. Oh. That's like the worst. As it roared into the record books late on Saturday. At this point, it has become one of the largest and most powerful hurricanes on record. Wow. And where is that bad boy going? Looks like it's up towards the Central Atlantic. Huh. The strongest hurricane on record this far north and east in the Atlantic Basin. Okay, it's moving north at 10 miles per hour, centered about a little over 1,000 miles southwest of the Portuguese island chain known as the Azores. Hey, enough with the news, Mike. Why are you giving me so much news today? I didn't tune into your podcast for a bunch of news. I wanted to hear you talk about Northern Exposure some more. Okay, this one episode, it's called Fish Story. And Joel, the Jewish doctor from New York, who's living he's like a fish out of water, basically, as what that type of show is called. He is fishing with some friends. One of them, John Corbett, who would later be on Sex and the City and a bunch of other shows. And he showed his butt on Portlandia, I think last season. It was a very funny episode where he seduces Carrie Brownstein. Okay, so and then Ed Chigliak, they're all sitting there at the side of this lake and they're fishing, and all of a sudden Joel gets this really big pull on his line, and the other two guys realize, oh my gosh, he's caught this old fish that lives in the lake, kind of like a Loch Ness monster type. And instead of its name being Nessie, like the Loch Ness monster, it's called Goonie. And then, the whole town rallies. That's what makes the show so much fun, is all the characters and how the town is itself its own character, and everybody in the community rallies to help him. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcaster Valleyton today. And so he's holding on to this fish, and all of a sudden the fish, it's late at night, and the fish is pulling really hard, and he gets into this little boat, and the fish basically is pulling him in the boat out into the middle of this lake at night. And all of a sudden, this guy gets into his boat out of nowhere in the darkness, and it's Rabbi Shulman. And I forget the character actor's name, but he later showed up on The Sopranos. And he and Joel talk about how the rabbi, apparently, who doesn't really realize how he got into a lake in Alaska, but he doesn't question it. He says God takes you on a journey and you never know where you end up. And he talks about how he has to go through all these changes at his synagogue because they now want to start incorporating female rabbis. And he's not used to that. He hasn't been trained how to deal with that. And then also, they don't want to refer to God as he. He must be referred to as he or she, or just as the Yahweh or whatever name they have. So he's trying to deal with all these changes. Joel is trying to deal with changes, and that's kind of a stupid idea, I admit, for a story. I mean, changes happen all the time. Changing places, root yourself to the ground, capitalize on this good fortune. One word could bring you round. Changes. And there's always going to be change. Joel's big change is that the very lovely O'Connell, played by Janine Turner, who really hasn't done that much since Northern Exposure, although she was a spokeswoman for a chemical that helps you make tears, because apparently she had trouble making tears with her big eyes. So she is romantically linked to Joel on the show, and she wants to do a nice thing for him, make him a Passover meal. And he's like, oh, no. And he gets all weirded out because here's this Irish girl wanting to make a nice dinner for her Jewish boyfriend. So we have that pressing issue. What was the other thing? Oh, Ruth Ann, who owns the store. She's this old lady who owns the town store. She gets so irritated by her customers who hasn't done this. And she closes up the store. She says, everybody out. And then she jumps on John Corbett's Harley and drives off into the Alaskan wilderness, where she meets a three-guy motorcycle group called the Diablos. And she goes off riding with them, and it's really cute. And the guy who's the leader of the Diablos is the actor that played the psychologist that Elaine falls in love with on Seinfeld. And he keeps stopping every once in a while going, I think I did something. I left something. I forget the whole... I haven't watched Seinfeld in so long. That actor, I can't think of his name. And then the other guy in this motorcycle group, I met him. He has unfortunately passed away, but he used to be the drummer in Bob Dylan's band, Mickey something, I forget his name. And I met him briefly at a event in Ventura. He lived somewhere in Ventura County. And I remember we did this event. We were on television. A TV station out of LA came up because we had him and we had a backup singer from Faith Hill's band. And we were broadcasting live from a coffee shop that actually I met my ex-wife at. But what's funny is I met her way before this happened, and I was good friends with the owner of this coffee shop. And one day my boss, Mark Hill, who is also sadly no longer with us, he asked me, Mike, do you know any cool places here in Ventura that we could do a live remote? A TV station wants to come up. The coffee house would get free advertising on TV. I go, let me give a guy a call. And I called this guy, Ray, who showed up to my wedding, by the way, drove all the way up to Northern California from Ventura to come to the wedding. I believe he was in a Winnebago. He was a cool guy. One of the first cool bald guys I ever met before I became a bald guy. And I used to play... I do these little concerts on Sunday nights at his coffee house, Full of Beans in Ventura. It's no longer there, sadly. So we ended up having this live remote on television from a CBS station, no less, came up to Ventura. They would do these live break-ins and go, hey, let's check in with, I guess they had some woman on the town type person. And she was up in Ventura. Let's go see what she's doing right now. How are you doing, Ethel? Whatever her name was. And she'd be there, and she'd go, oh, hey, it's a character actor so-and-so who's been in all these movies and TV shows. So I met him real quick, and I think I might have brought up Northern Exposure. I go, you were in one of my favorite Northern Exposure episodes. And he goes, oh, yeah, I remember doing that show, but we didn't have much time to talk. He was a very nice guy, as I recall, but he's no longer with us. So he's in this episode of Northern Exposure called The Fish Story. And it's a good story about how, so these guys, the Diablos, riding motorcycles throughout the wilderness of Alaska, the back roads, they're all guys in their middle age, and they're going through life crises all on themselves, all their own. They're going through changes. So they talk with Ruth Ann, who's much older than all of them, and what's your big worry, Ruth Ann? She goes, oh, I wish I could get past my arthritis, and they all laugh, and that brings me to my little old guy thing, and you'll see that's in the podcast picture as well. But I hurt my back helping out Stormy Phoenix, who has been on this show. Not Stormy Daniels, but Stormy Phoenix. And Stormy Phoenix works for a radio station where they got to set up stuff. They take stuff out, set up booths and prize wheels, and set up at little events throughout the Diablo Valley. Back to Diablo. The Diablos. She set up yesterday. She needed some help, so I helped her bring stuff down to the prize van, as we call it, and I didn't realize how heavy this frickin' thing was. The prize wheel, in fact, is what it was, and the prize wheel is over 100 pounds. And I lifted it in such a way that it's hurt my back, and today I'm in pain. So that's basically starting a sentence with the word so, which I ranted about last show. But yeah, that's what the aging thing does. And I will not be talked into lifting heavy objects for Stormy Phoenix anymore. She can go ahead and make 2 trips. She's got a huge dolly. She can put it on. She can just push it. It makes it easy. Or she can quit. But I ain't doing it again. That's all I had to say about that. But sometimes we have to realize our limits. And sometimes we have to realize life is full of changes. And sometimes we have to read a sad story from Mexico. A Mexico roller coaster plunges, killing 2 at an amusement park? Oh, that's a nightmare. Where is this? What area was this at in Mexico? La Feria Chapultepec. I think I said that word fantastically. Oh, Mexico City. Oh, that's sad. Huh. Ulises Lara Lopez, a spokesman for the Attorney General's office, told reporters at a news conference that 2 men, ages 18 and 21, died in the crash. 2 women were also injured. So, I wonder if they have the same regulations as we do here in America. It was a preliminary investigation has indicated a mechanical failure caused the car to come loose. I wonder if they fall. I would probably never, ever, ever go on a roller coaster in Mexico. Ronnie Dunn admits he blew off music execs at first before signing on to new solo album Redone. Ronnie Dunn of Brooks and Dunn. The Boot, Scoot, and Boogie. That was their big song, but they had other ones. So if you feel you're lost and lonely, there's a dancing out of the beams of a neon moon. That was their big hit. And finally, covering a lot of news today, and I apologize, but that's just how I'm feeling today on Mike's Daily Podcast. Shamima Begum. She went and got married to some sort of ISIS person. ISIL, whatever you want to call him. The Islamic State. She will never, ever, ever be allowed to return to the United Kingdom. She fled the United Kingdom to join the terror group. And she, the Home Secretary of England, Priti Patel, has said that Shamima will never be welcomed back. And it has resulted in a public debate about the handling of returning jihadists. Being the horrible things that ISIL did, and I think we've got this selective memory where we forget this stuff, where we go, oh, yeah, I forgot all about the decapitations. And so we just, we don't think it's a big deal. It's a big deal. We should never forget how evil these people were and what terrible things they did. I don't think she should ever be back in England. I think she should stay there. She made her bed. She should stay in it. There's a beautiful picture, by the way, of the autumnal landscape near the town of Clavivo in Spain's Rioja wine region that is so autumn-looking and beautiful. And I'm going to download this, by the way. You can sometimes download these pictures. It's so nice. I'm taking it. Okay, because I like photos. They help me focus on things and remember the important things, because things change so fast. And we need to remember, when you gonna make up your mind? When you gonna love you as much as I do? When you gonna make up your mind? 'Cause things are gonna change so fast. All the wild horses are running away. And you're gonna be... Thank you, Tori Amos. That's pretty much the end of the podcast today, but we didn't say hi to the people here at Cafe Anyway outside on the patio. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player. Tell you what.
What?
I think she artists should all be put on another planet, and that planet should blow up.
Okay, look who else is here.
Oh, Mike, I make the delicious root beer. Have some right now. Oh, boy, it's good. Okay.
Thank you. There's a lot of imagery with fishes, by the way, as Rabbi Shulman points out. The fish was represented the Christians, early Christians. There's also Jesus multiplied the fish and the bread for the parties and fed the masses. And then there was for the parties, Jesus was at all the time. And it wasn't just a regular house wine. No, he had all kinds of different wines. He had the Pinot Grigio. He had the Merlots. He even had, what do they call it? Dang it, the ice wine from Germany. Oh, I can't even think of the ice vine. Is that what they said? Oh no, it's the wine that's like milk wine. Milch. Dang it. That's how bad I am with wine. Okay, beer is a slightly different story. So yes, all the imagery, and of course the Jonah and the whale, which is what the story turns into when you watch that Northern Exposure. Where can you watch Northern Exposure? I don't know. I have all the DVDs. Some nice guy that was the brother of someone I was married to gave it to me, and I will always be appreciative for that. And that's at the end of the show. Be good to your back. Be good to your friends. Realize there's change. Realize you need time to yourself and to unplug. And realize your limits. And that's pretty much the end of the show. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. We're not going to be as daily as we used to be this week, I will admit. I will probably get a show to you if everybody is, if I'm lucky, let's just say, and everything goes well. I will bring you a new show tomorrow. But then it's going to be a little more sparse, just letting you know. But thank you for being an avid listener, and I appreciate it. You can give me your opinion on anything we covered at 336-663-2459, or that's actually 336-MM Daily. 3 plus 3 equals 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast has been for almost a week. And thank you for listening. We're off. Ariel, take it away.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!